The year is 122 of the Common Era. At the most distant edge of the Roman Empire, a monumental stone structure rises. Hadrian's Wall. This massive barrier cuts through the landscape of ancient Britain, stretching for 80 Roman miles, from sea to sea. At night, the world here seems to slow down, almost coming to a complete standstill. The bustle of Rome, the debates in the Senate, and the noisy markets are thousands of miles away. Here, on the northern frontier, only silence remains. The air is cold, clean, and perfectly still. A low, dense mist begins to roll gently over the surrounding hills, covering the damp grass like a gray blanket. For the soldier on the wall, the night is not a time of danger, but rather a period of profound regularity. Roman engineering has transformed this wild land into a monument of order and stability. Each stone block was carved by hand, every single inch planned to last for generations. Take a deep breath and feel the immense solidity of this ancient structure. Time passes slowly, very slowly, as the night embraces the frontier. The wall is not just a line on a map. It is a triumph of logistics and repetition. Its stone foundations are about 10 feet wide, and the walls rise up to 15 feet high. Layer by layer, the legionaries stacked rectangular blocks of local limestone and sandstone. Between the stones, the gray mortar dried decades ago, becoming as hard as the rock itself. If you look closely, you can see the marks left by the stonemason's tools, small, repetitive grooves made by chisels long since forgotten. This uniformity soothes the eyes. There is no rush in the construction, only the steady application of mathematical rules. The wall follows the natural curves of the terrain, climbing rocky ridges and dipping into gentle valleys, always maintaining the same comforting thickness. The night wind blows softly against the rough surface, but the stone remains completely motionless. It absorbed the heat of the afternoon sun, and now it cools slowly under the moonlight. Everything is solid, everything is under control, everything is exactly where it should be. On top of the wall, the walkway is flat and secure. A lone soldier walks with deliberate, measured, and slow steps. He is not running. He is not on high alert. He is simply executing his routine. His heavy leather sandals, known as caligae, touch the stone floor with a soft, regular, and almost hypnotic sound. Step after step, he covers the same 100-yard stretch. He wears a thick cloak of dark wool, which protects him from the dampness of the British night. The fabric is heavy, coarse, and smells faintly of wood smoke and olive oil. His hands rest on the pommel of his gladius, which remains safely in its sheath. The rhythm of his walk perfectly matches the rhythm of his breathing. In goes the cold air, out goes the warm air, forming a tiny cloud of vapor that soon vanishes into the mist. The patrol is a dance of patience, a moving meditation on the vastness of the imperial night, where hours dissolve into the dark air. Every Roman mile, the wall houses a small fort, known as a mile castle. Inside one of these stone structures, the atmosphere is one of simple and monotonous comfort. In the corner of the guardroom, a small stone hearth contains reddish embers that glow softly. There are no high flames, only the steady, radiant heat of the slowly burning charcoal. The warmth spreads through the thick walls, creating a cozy refuge against the chill outside. On the rustic wooden table rests a clean iron bowl and a ceramic jug containing water mixed with a bit of sour vinegar, Posca, the daily drink of the soldiers. Nearby, a small pile of firewood is perfectly stacked, oak logs cut to the exact same size. The smell of the dry wood and the subtle warmth invite relaxation. The soldier knows his comrades are sleeping in the wooden bunks next door, covered by heavy blankets. Safety is total, the shelter is firm, and the quiet of the night is absolute inside this stone fortress. Life on the frontier is maintained by the order of numbers and inventories. On the scribe's table, a dark wax tablet displays lines of Roman Latin records, written with a bronze stylus. Grains of wheat, bags of salt, jars of olive oil, and rations of lard. Every single item is counted, cataloged, and stored with absolute precision. There is no room for chaos. The supply for the next 6 months is perfectly secured in the fort's underground granaries. This logistical certainty brings a deep sense of peace. The empire functions like an invisible clock, taking care of every detail so that the soldier on the wall only needs to focus on the present. The tallow candle illuminating the tablet burns steadily. The melted wax drips slowly down the side, solidifying into soft shapes. The numbers on the tablet are stable, the provisions are abundant, and the mind can finally rest, knowing that everything is planned, secure, and unchanging until the dawn. The soldier looks up, gazing at the vast dome of the night sky. Far from the large cities polluted by smoke, the sky of ancient Britain is a deep, velvety black and perfectly clear. Thousands of stars twinkle like tiny points of cold light, stretching along the Milky Way. The constellation of Ursa Major shines directly above the wall, serving as a silent guide for navigators and guards. This very same sky covered the ancestors, and will cover future generations. There is a comforting constancy in the rotation of the planets. Cosmic time moves forward without any rush, oblivious to human worries. The soldier breathes in the pure night air, feeling small, yet perfectly integrated into the order of the universe. The starlight reflects discreetly in the puddles of rainwater accumulated on the wall's stones. Each star seems to blink at the same slow rhythm as a heartbeat, slowing down thoughts, calming the mind, and inviting the body to surrender to complete rest. Inside the secondary guard tower, time is measured not by gears, but by the gentle flow of water. A clepsydra, the Roman water clock, operates in absolute silence. Clear water drips from an upper bronze vessel into a graduated ceramic container below. Drop by drop, the liquid descends at a perfectly steady pace. Each drop represents a moment passing away, without noise, without alarms. The water level in the lower vessel rises millimeter by millimeter, marking the progress of the night's third watch. The uniformity of this process is hypnotic. The soldier watches the reflection of the torchlight on the trembling surface of the water. There is no rush for the night to end. The steady dripping acts as a metronome for sleep, clearing the mind of old memories and future plans. The present is just this, the almost imperceptible sound of water, the weight of time flowing in a gentle, predictable, and entirely secure manner, under the protection of the Empire. In the quarters of the soldiers who have already finished their shift, the stillness is palpable. On a dark wooden stand, a segmented iron armor, the Lorica segmentata, rests perfectly cleaned and oiled. The leather straps holding the metal plates together are slack, resting after daily use. Nearby, the bronze and iron helmet, the Gallia, rests with its cheek guards closed. The metal reflects the dim light of a distant oil lamp, showing small marks from polishing done with fine sand and oil. There is no need to wear the protective metal right now. The wall fulfills its role as the primary shield. The empty armor is a symbol of peace and duty fulfilled. The weight that once tired the legionary's shoulders has now been set aside, allowing his body to fully relax on the mattresses of dry straw. Feel the relief of setting aside your own mental armor. The day is done, the work is finished, and the tools of protection can rest in silence. Looking north, beyond the boundary of the wall, stretches the territory of Caledonia. At night, this immense valley looks like an ocean of gray, static mist. The distant hills dissolve into soft silhouettes against the dark horizon. There are no artificial lights, no smoke from villages, only nature in its purest, most sleeping state. The ancient forest in the distance breathes slowly under the moonlight. The wall creates a clear division between the flat, ordered world of Rome and the untouched vastness of the north. But tonight, both worlds share the same blanket of peace. No sound comes from the valley. The forest animals are tucked away in their dens. The birds rest on tree branches, and the wind merely brushes the leaves without making a sound. The immensity of the space outside helps to empty the mind of any internal worry. The horizon is infinite, calm, and completely still. Everything is at peace. Let this external immensity bring silence to your thoughts as the world outside sleeps deeply. In a small niche carved into the stone wall, a terracotta oil lamp burns steadily. The small clay reservoir is filled with clear olive oil, brought from the southern provinces of the Mediterranean. A twisted linen wick absorbs the oil, feeding a small, warm, yellowish flame. The flame does not flicker, as the air inside the tower is perfectly calm. It casts soft, long shadows onto the textured stone walls. The subtle scent of burning olive oil fills the room, a familiar, ancient, and deeply comforting aroma. The oil level drops almost imperceptibly, consuming itself millimeter by millimeter over the hours. The light is soft, ideal for resting eyes tired from the watch. Looking at this tiny flame brings a sense of security and focus. The outside world may be dark and cold, but here, there is a constant source of light and warmth. The oil will continue to burn slowly, keeping the space secure, as you allow yourself to close your eyes and relax. The solidity of the wall depends on invisible secrets mixed into the rock itself. Between the large blocks of dressed stone lies the famous Roman mortar, a perfect mixture of quicklime, coarse sand, and small rounded river stones. Over the decades, this substance dried and fused with the limestone, becoming a continuous and indestructible rock. If you run your fingers virtually across the surface, you will feel the different textures. The roughness of the sand, the smoothness of the small stones polished by water, and the cold hardness of the main block. This mixture absorbs the impacts of time and changes in temperature. In the silence of the night, the mortar does not move, does not crack, and does not yield. It remains as a silent testimony to the precision of military engineers. The repetition of these textures across miles and miles brings a sense of absolute stability. The world may change, but the structure of stone and mortar remains exactly the same, firm, secure, and completely at rest under the stars. Near the main watchtower rises the Horium, the granary of the fort. The floor of this structure is elevated by small stone pillars, called suspensory, designed to allow cool air to circulate underneath and keep everything perfectly dry. Inside, the smell is sweet, earthy, and calming. Rows of large wooden bins are filled to the brim with clean wheat grains, barley, and spelt. Each grain was harvested in the southern fields and carefully transported to the frontier. There is no moisture, there are no noises. Moonlight filters through a narrow slit in the high stone wall, illuminating the millions of golden grains resting in absolute silence. This abundance guarantees the survival of the garrison for many months to come. Knowing that supplies are secure and well-guarded creates a deep feeling of contentment and peace. The mind can settle, free from worries about tomorrow. Everything that is needed has already been provided, and the grains rest in the dark, waiting for time to pass. At the outer base of the wall, the gray stone meets the soft earth of Britain. The dark grass is thickly covered in night dew, tiny drops of clear water gleaming softly under the dim moonlight. The soil has absorbed the moisture from the low clouds, creating a plush, cushioned texture. If you were to walk here, your steps would be completely muffled by the damp vegetation. The low-lying mist hugs the foundations of the wall, as if protecting the ground itself from any disturbance. The air close to the ground is even cooler and fresher. There is no movement of animals. The small native plants are tucked away, and the clover leaves remain still under the light weight of the dew. This connection between the eternal hardness of the Roman stone and the fleeting softness of the British nature is perfect and harmonious. The earth breathes out moisture in a slow, rhythmic way. Feel the tranquility of this damp, calm ground, and let your thoughts sink gently into this soft, welcoming grass. On a dark oak shelf, inside the fort commander's office, rests an object of great value and legal stability. It is a Roman military diploma, consisting of two small bronze plates bound together by twisted metal wires. On the surface of the bronze, perfect lines of Latin text have been engraved with deep precision. The document certifies that the soldier has completed his 25 years of faithful service in the Imperial Army. It details his name, his unit of origin, his exemplary conduct, and the citizenship rights he now rightfully possesses. Each letter carved into the metal is a permanent record of order, law, and stability. The bronze subtly reflects the orange glow of the distant hearth, conveying a sense of completion and legal security. The veteran's future is secured by written laws spanning 3 continents. There are no uncertainties, there are no doubts. Duty has been fully discharged, the contract with Rome has been honored, and well-deserved rest is finally guaranteed for decades to come. The guard's greatest ally against the cold night is his woolen cloak, known as the sagum. Neatly folded on a rustic wooden chest, the cloak rests in silence. Its thick, dense fibers of dark wool are visible under the soft light of the oil lamp. The fabric was spun by hand and retains the natural lanolin of the sheep, making it naturally resistant to the fine rain and British mist. The weight of the fabric is comforting. When worn, it drapes over the shoulders like a heavy protective embrace, isolating the body from the outside world. Now, resting in the quarters, the fabric gives off a subtle aroma of dry earth, peat smoke, and the stored warmth of the soldier's body. This coarse, yet soft and protective texture evokes an immediate sense of shelter and coziness. No cold can penetrate this barrier of wool. just as no worries can break the security of this stone room. Allow yourself to feel the comforting weight of this cloak, relaxing every muscle and surrendering to sleep. If we look up at the roofs of the barracks, we see perfect lines of ceramic engineering. The Roman roof tiles, called tegulae, cover the wooden structures with geometric precision. They are made of baked clay, with side flanges that fit under smaller cylindrical tiles, called embrices. This repetition of curves and straight lines creates a visual pattern that soothes the mind. At night, after a very light and passing drizzle, the surface of the baked clay gleams with a matte finish under the moonlight. The water drains in an orderly fashion down the stone gutters, vanishing into the fort's well-planned underground drains. The roof perfectly fulfills its function of keeping the warmth inside and the dampness out. The sound of the last drops of water hitting the clay is slow and sporadic. Everything is dry. Everything is protected by barriers built to last for centuries. Feel the security of being under a firm roof, where rain and wind merely slide away, without ever disturbing your rest. Descending the stone steps into the supply cellar, we find the stillness of imperial stocks. Here, dozens of large terracotta amphorae rest lined up in heavy wooden racks. Each of these clay jars has two sturdy handles and a pointed base, designed to be driven into the sand or fitted perfectly into the holds of merchant ships. They contain pure olive oil from Hispania and thick wine from the provinces of Gaul. The interior of the cellar maintains a constant, cool temperature, completely isolated from external weather changes. The dominant smell is that of dry clay and the subtle aroma of stored oil. There is no movement in this place, only the silence of preservation. The goods are organized by type and date of arrival, everything recorded with chalk on the stone walls. This quiet abundance reinforces the certainty that nothing is lacking. Roman logistics takes care of every detail, ensuring that the garrison's sustenance is kept in the dark, at peace, and in total safety. In the fort's blacksmith workshop, the heavy tools finally rest. The brick forge is unlit, containing only cold, gray ashes covering the remains of the oak charcoal. On a massive wooden stump, the solid iron anvil displays small marks of use, bearing witness to the daily work of repairing horseshoes and armor buckles. Hanging from iron hooks on the stone wall, hammers of different weights, tongs, and pincers are perfectly aligned by size. The metal of these tools is cold to the touch, lubricated with a thin layer of lard to prevent rust from the British night. The heat of the day has completely dissipated, leaving in the air only the dry smell of iron, spent charcoal, and the old leather of protective gloves. The hard work has stopped. The rhythm of the hammer against metal has given way to the comforting silence of the night. Everything that needed to be repaired is done. The tools rest, and you too can set aside your mental tools, allowing your body to fully relax. Parallel to the great stone wall runs an equally monumental earth structure. The fossatum, a defensive ditch dug in a perfect V-shape. Its sloped lines descend to a depth of nearly 10 feet, stretching for miles across the terrain. Roman engineering shaped the earth itself to create a predictable and orderly barrier. At night, the bottom of this ditch collects a thick, white mist, making it look as though it were filled with soft clouds. The geometry of the cut in the earth is visible under the soft moonlight, hitting the short, grass-covered slopes. There is no running water, no sounds of mud, only the stability of earth carved with millimeter precision. The repetition of this ditch along the hills creates a sense of symmetry that soothes the gaze. The stone wall and the earth ditch work together in silence, forming an unbreakable line of peace. The surrounding world respects this geometric order. The mist rests at the bottom of the ditch, motionless, cold, and perfectly calm, inviting the mind to find its own center of stability. Next to one of the wooden bunks in the silent quarters, a pair of military sandals rests on the polished flagstone floor. The caligy, made of thick strips of bovine leather carefully cut and tied, show the exact shape of the soldier's feet who wore them for so many miles. On the thick leather sole, dozens of small iron studs are embedded to provide grip on the damp stones. Now, these metal studs are motionless, touching the floor without making a sound. The leather is soft, treated with castor oil to maintain flexibility against the British moisture. There are no more marches to make today, no more patrols along the wall. The footwear has fulfilled its function of protecting and guiding the legionaries' steps through the daily routine. The stillness emanating from these empty sandals is a direct invitation to rest. The weight of the body has been released. The feet are free and warm under the woolen blankets. Let your own steps stop as well, allowing your body to feel the sweetness of not needing to go anywhere. Just rest. On the rustic oak table, a dark wax tablet rests under the dim light. This hollowed piece of wood is filled with a smooth, perfectly leveled layer of beeswax mixed with black soot. On the soft surface, calm lines of Roman cursive handwriting record the routine bureaucracy of the fort. There are no urgent words, only the repetitive entry of watch schedules and the names of soldiers assigned for the coming days. Next to the letters, the bronze stylus, with its sharp point and its flattened opposite end for erasing mistakes, rests motionless. Writing on wax is a silent, soft, and meditative process. Each stroke sinks into the wax without making a sound, consolidating order over chaos. The regularity of the aligned names brings a deep sense of predictability. Tomorrow is already organized, tasks have been distributed, and the mind does not need to worry about planning. Everything is recorded, everything is secure, and the dark wax absorbs the last light of the night in absolute silence. In the stone hearth of the barracks, the night fire has turned into a sea of ashes and embers. The heavy oak logs have consumed themselves completely, leaving only geometric fragments of charcoal pulsing with a very dim, deep orange glow. There are no flames, no popping wood, only the radiant, continuous heat emanating from the bottom of the gray ash. An almost invisible thread of gray smoke rises in a straight line toward the stone chimney, moving in a slow, hypnotic way. The heat accumulated in the thick stone walls keeps the room at a perfectly comfortable temperature, a cocoon of comfort against the dampness of the British night. Watching the gradual fading of the embers helps to slow down the heartbeat. The fire has fulfilled its role to light and warm, and now it too surrenders to rest. Let your thoughts lose their brightness and intensity, turning into a gentle, warm, and welcoming stillness as the darkness softly takes control. At the main gate of the Mile Castle, security is an insurmountable physical barrier. The two large leaves of solid oak wood, over 4 inches thick, are firmly shut. They are reinforced by large wrought iron bars and secured by a heavy wooden crossbar that requires 2 men to move. The gate fits perfectly beneath the monumental stone archway, eliminating any gap. Under the cold moonlight, the textures of the weathered wood and rustic iron convey a clear message of absolute protection. Nothing can break this barrier. No outside worry can cross this boundary of stone and metal. The world outside remains trapped in the mist, while the world inside stays in total safety and order. The garrison sleeps with the certainty that Roman engineering and heavy locks fulfill their role in silence. Feel this very same protection around your resting space. The doors are closed, the perimeter is secure, and there is nothing to do but relax and trust in the solidity of this shelter. We enter the fourth watch, the deepest, quietest period of the night, preceding the first glimmer of dawn. On top of the wall, the mist has reached its peak density. It has risen up the earthen slopes and now floats at the same level as the stone pathway, turning the surrounding landscape into an immense, soft, and completely static white ocean. The world seems to have vanished beneath this blanket of calm moisture. The sky above begins to change very slowly from black to a deep midnight blue, yet the stars still shine brightly. The guard on the wall moves only as much as necessary, breathing in the crisp air that clears the lungs. There are no sounds of wind, no rustling of leaves. It is the moment of greatest stillness in the entire Roman Empire. The earth is suspended in a void of peace. This dense mist acts as acoustic insulation, muffling any remaining thoughts. Let this soft, white mist envelop your mind as well, erasing shapes, silencing noises, and leaving only a clean, calm space, ready for deep sleep. The long watch is coming to an end, and the transition to rest is inevitable. Leaning against the dark stone wall of the quarters, the large rectangular shield, the scutum, rests in silence. Its curved wooden surface, covered in red leather and reinforced with brass edges, is marked by the history of many calm journeys. The central bronze boss reflects the last and softest bluish light of the moon setting on the horizon. The shield no longer needs to be carried. It no longer needs to protect. It has fulfilled its mission to maintain order on the most distant frontier of the ancient world. Beside it, the soldier's mind finally switches off, surrendering to the warmth of the heavy blankets and the slow rhythm of his breathing. The silence of Hadrian's wall is now your own silence. The stones remain firm, the empire remains secure, and time flows like a gentle, unhurried river. Feel the weight of your body sink into the bed. There is nothing left to observe, nothing left to watch. Allow yourself to completely close your eyes and sleep deeply under the eternal protection of the stone.